Making very good progress through these diagrams, I must say. So that's perfect competition in the can, Monopoly in the can. Now we need to move on and do the next sort of similar one, because the oligopoly diagram is different. So we're going to do then monopolistic competition. Get that out of the way. Monopolistic. I find myself now having to be very careful about what I say when the camera's on and when it's not on. And it's obviously not that I ever say anything inappropriate, obviously, but sometimes just you need to be careful what's being uploaded onto the interwide world web. So monopolistic competition. Let's just remember where that fits in on our spectrum. So we've covered off monopoly. We've covered off perfect competition, and then monopolistic competition is, of course, we're getting close to perfect competition when we consider monopolistic, which is about here. So, we have already learned, or certainly I have told you, whether or not you've committed them to memory in the same way as Mr. D. Weir, Derek Weir, RBAI. 1987 to 1993. In the same way that he made me learn those characteristics. So, characteristics of perfect competition are large numbers of buyers and sellers, all firms have perfect knowledge, all firms sell a homogeneous product, no single buyer or seller is large enough to influence the market price, hence they are price takers. There are no transport costs or other market imperfections, and all firms have perfect knowledge. So they would be the general characteristics of perfect competition. Now you need to learn those and commit those to memory banks. But what say you with regard to monopolistic competition? So the types of firms we'd be talking about would be what exactly? For monopolistic? We've got a new student in the class. Yes, Sydney?
Is it a large number of small firms?
Okay, but before we get into that, what sort of firms would we be talking about? Are we talking very large, grand firms or relatively small?
Small.
Okay, and what would the examples be though? Say on
like a hairdresser's.
Oh, appropriate. A hairdresser's, maybe, yes. A hairdresser's or
fast food.
okay, if it was, I mean, you
not
wouldn't.
like not like McDonald's, just like all the ones that buy.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that, student A. Yes, a relatively small, like a local fish and chip shop or something like that. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Or
restaurants.
Okay, small restaurant chain. Or what else? Sell your house for you. Estate agents. If you've got a small business and you're not a whiz on the financial side of things, you'll need to employ what, Robert? Some of you might end up being one actually. An accountant, so accountancy firms. These types of things all fall under the category of monopolistic competition. So characteristics would be, Sydney?
Small.
Yeah, okay. And you're hiding there behind our learned friend here, Mr. Coulson?
Yeah.
Are you? Right, okay. Small firms, and how many of them?
A lot of them.
Yeah. Right, okay, so we've got a large number of small firms. Now, let me tell you about my hairdresser, okay, because that's a great example. It's good publicity for it, and perhaps you're probably looking, thinking, oh yeah, fancy a style like that, Jacob. Are you? Excuse me, what?
You don't even have any hair to cut.
Oh!
Oh,
Oh! What a thing to say on camera as well.
oh damn, I totally forgot.
Let me turn the camera around and zoom
No.
in. Dear, oh dear. Let me tell you a little bit about my hairdresser, Tony. Now, Tony's hairdressers is called So and So. So and So in Whitley Bay. It's in the northeast of England. And it's got a great little business going there actually, so it's quite popular. It's more a sort of ladies' salon, but at the back end of it he has what he calls his barbering area. So he cuts men's and ladies' hair obviously. And it's more expensive than the local barber shop, which is called Cuts. The nearest one to me is called Cuts, K-U-T-Z. And the owner of that has a private reg on his car, which is 1 K-U-T-Z. But anyway, the barber shop is cheaper than Tony at So and So. So Tony at So and So, I mean, obviously you get what you pay for, yeah. So I mean, obviously you'd be talking what, Max? What sort of price would be? What sort of price bracket is this bad boy in? 15 and upwards, please. Robert? £9.
Wow.
I said upwards 15, Robert, thank you.
So clear 25 there.
Okay, right, now you're talking. Because I'm a regular customer, and it would normally be £22.50, but because I'm a regular, because I've got a lot of hair to cut, and it grows very, very rapidly, so I go, you know, maybe once every 3 weeks, but sometimes even once every fortnight, just to keep on top of this, and £20. £20.
What it is.
Absolute bargain.
Yeah.
For quality. Get what you pay for. Now the local barber shop Cuts. It's a long time since I've been, because I'm a long-term convert now to Tony. But the local barber shop is around, I would say, maybe £8, something like that. Now they both provide a fairly similar product in the sense that they cut hair. But what do you think makes me prefer Tony's, Alex, rather than Mr. Cuts?
You get a better haircut.
Okay, that's one. We have good bants, that's another thing. So we have good, he's a real Bantosaurus Rex, Tony. Yes, Aaron? Oh my days. Go on.
Customer service.
Customer service, and you're absolutely right. When I used to go to the barber shop, you went in and it was a bit of a production line, and there was no time for any chit chat. It was just, right, sit there, what do you want? Short pack and sides, zzz, zzz, and you know, a couple of chops with the scissors, and that was it. Whereas with Tony, in we go, and we have every time. It's good. It's funny if you're there. Every time we have a little consultation at the chair. So, you know, we go to the thing, he says, right, well, what would you like this time? We have a little bit of a discussion. Because obviously it's always the same. We just have we just like to have a little bit of bants over that, Radhika. Then he says, would you like a cup of tea or coffee? Or perhaps something else to drink? And, you know, said, yes please, Tony. So they bring me a little drink. Then get your hair washed and shampooed. Don't get that at the barber shop. So all of these things are distinguishing Tony's from the local Cuts. Now, what could you use for another word to distinguish Tony's from the barber shop? What's Tony doing to make his just stand out that little bit more?
Quality.
Quality, okay. So he's providing a very similar product, but what's he doing to that product? He's
Giving it added value.
He's added value, yes, but what's he doing? He's making it slightly different. Now, what's the word to describe making your product slightly different from someone else's? Dylan?
I'm not sure.
Differentiate.
Yes! He's differentiating the product. Now, that is my long-winded explanation with regard to monopolistic competition and the fact that each firm produces or sells a very similar product or service, but they are differentiated slightly from one another. So they're not, we couldn't say they are, which they are in perfect competition, they're not homogeneous, very similar with a twist, a little differentiation. So, all firms sell similar but not identical products. So in here we're therefore talking about product differentiation. Okay. I hope that's not picked up on that microphone there. Number 3. Now, what about knowledge? So, say I wanted to start my own Never Fear, Gico's Cuts are here, or something like that. Gico's Styles. Yes, Aaron?
So there are slight barriers to entry.
There are...
Slight barriers to entry.
Okay, there are barriers to entry, but relatively speaking, they're fairly minimal. And what about exit?
Similar. But there's going to be some barriers to exit.
Such as?
Sunken costs.
Yes, for example. So what would Tony and Mr. Cuts have to spend money on? And they wouldn't be able to recoup it if they decided, oh, this isn't working out.
Any products that they use.
Well, they could probably sell them on some other hairdresser.
And not if it's expended.
Not if it's...
Used.
Well, no, they could, no. But that would then be part of your day-to-day running cost. So it's not, that wouldn't be a sunk cost in that respect. Yes?
Advertisement.
Advertising, exactly. So if I was trying to advertise mine and make it that little bit more unique and get the awareness out there, and then I decided to close down, well, I can't go back to the newspaper and say, you know that ad I was running for 10 weeks, this business hasn't worked out, can I have the money back please? So, number 3, we do have barriers to entry and exit. But they're not going to be extensive and expansive. So they're minimal, really. And of course, nowadays, if you want to start a small business, you can get all sorts of government support to help you set up a small business. So again, these barriers can quite readily and easily be overcome. Okay? What about knowledge of the marketplace? Knowledge of my competitors. Easy or difficult, Robert?
Difficult, so it's imperfect.
You reckon? So if I want to find out what all the sort of the local hairdressers are doing, and whether they're dealing in the same tip-top styles as Tony,
Actually, it'd be quite easy.
it'd be quite easy, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I could easily walk in and I could be an undercover shopper, and I could go into, you know, for a period of months, I could go and test all the local hairdressers, and I could see what price they're charging, I could find out what products they're using. I could maybe just discreetly sit opposite the shop one day on a bench with a hat on and a pair of sunglasses and a newspaper, and just every so often I could be sort of peering over and just seeing how many people are going in and out, what sort of styles they're getting, who works there, what time they start, what time they leave, where they live. No, obviously not. So, you know, it would be quite easy to find out all of these things. So again, there's going to be a high degree of knowledge specific to the market. Well, it might not be perfect, because we're not a perfect market, but you're going to be able to find out a lot about your competitors. You could stop people as they come out and say, oh hi, I see that you've just been into Tony's of so-and-so, can I ask how much you paid for that? And then, you know, do you think it was value for money? And what other things did Tony offer when you were there? My Tony has a pool table at the back. Not for customers, but for clientele. Remarkable. Yes.
Do you have tissue?
Say that again, please.
Do you have a tissue?
Do I have a tissue? Do I have a tissue, ladies and gentlemen? Yes?
That's disgusting. Ew.
Monica, you just like having your voice on this camera whenever. Are you actually joking?
Serena, I have tissues.
Right, so you just...
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I have got one.
I
Thank you.
wasn't good anyway, but like... Thanks.
Sorry for the interlude, ladies and gentlemen. It's, totally unnecessary. Right, number 5. What about profit in this particular industry or market structure? Say that again, please.
Would it be normal profits?
So you think normal profit in what time period are we talking about here?
In the long run.
Okay, now I would tend to agree with that, normal profit in the long run. And what would mean probably that is going to be the most likely outcome. So one of these characteristics here means that it's probably more than likely that you'll only make normal in the long run. Alex?
Large numbers of small firms.
No? So if you're a hairdresser and I'm sitting at home and I've been practising with my scissors for months, but I don't have a job yet, or I don't have my own company yet, and I'm looking at you, Alex, and you are driving a nice car and you've got a nice house and so on, and you're a hairdresser, well, what will I think to myself?
No.
Sorry, one moment, ladies and gentlemen. It's the end of the year 2 exam and I'm just going to pop out and see them.